Most people walk through their day without ever thinking about what's directly below their feet. Old city blocks buried under new ones. Bunkers built to survive nuclear war. Tunnels carved by hand 100 years ago. All of it still down there, quiet and mostly forgotten. Here are 24 hidden underground places in America most people don't know about. 24. The Seattle Underground, Washington. Start in the Pacific Northwest. On June 6, 1889, a fire broke out in a carpentry shop in downtown Seattle and burned the city to the ground. City leaders decided that rather than rebuild at the original street level, which flooded constantly and had a sewage problem too unpleasant to describe here, they would raise the streets by 1 to 2 full stories. The original ground floor storefronts and sidewalks didn't go anywhere. They just became the basement level. Merchants operated on 2 levels for a while, until the old sidewalks were sealed off entirely. By 1907, bubonic plague pushed city officials to close the underground for good. It stayed that way until the 1960s, when Seattle journalist Bill Speidel started nosing around and realized there was an actual buried city down there. He held the first public tour in August 1964. About 500 curious people, each paying $1. The underground tour became an official business in 1965 and has been running ever since. Today you can walk through the original storefronts, see the old purple glass skylights built into what is now the modern sidewalk above, and stare at the artifacts of a city that literally grew on top of itself. 23. The Greenbrier Bunker, White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia. In 1958, the U.S. government approached the owners of the Greenbrier, one of the most prestigious resort hotels in America, nestled in the Allegheny Mountains of West Virginia, with an unusual request. They wanted to build a secret nuclear bunker underneath it, large enough to house the entire United States Congress. The hotel said yes. Construction ran from 1959 to 1962, codenamed Project Greek Island. The bunker was disguised as a routine expansion, a new wing called the West Virginia Wing, while simultaneously burying 112,000 square feet of reinforced concrete 45 feet into the hillside. The walls were 2 feet thick. 4 blast doors were installed, the heaviest weighing 28 tons. A dummy company called Forsyth Associates, staffed by Pentagon operatives posing as TV repairmen, maintained the facility around the clock for 30 years. Inside, 1,000 plus bunk beds, a 400-seat cafeteria, separate auditoriums for the Senate and the House of Representatives, a decontamination area, a medical center, and a crematorium. The facility was fully stocked and ready for activation at any moment. It was never used, not even during the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962, when it came the closest. The bunker was built when bombers took hours to go over the polar ice cap. Journalist Ted Gupp noted when he broke the story in a 1992 Washington Post expose. The warning time was many hours. We're now talking minutes, if not less. The government decommissioned the facility the same day the article ran. Today, the Greenbrier offers public tours of the still intact bunker. 22. Cheyenne Mountain Complex, Colorado Springs, Colorado. If the Greenbrier was built for Congress, Cheyenne Mountain was built for the people who actually run the military. Construction began on May 18, 1961, when the Army Corps of Engineers started blasting into a granite mountain about 10 miles from Colorado Springs. Over the next 5 years, they removed 693,000 tons of rock and built 15 freestanding steel buildings inside a series of caverns. The complex became NORAD's Combat Operations Center, fully operational on February 6, 1967. Total cost, $142.4 million. The buildings inside aren't touching the ground. They sit on 1,319 massive steel springs, each designed to absorb the shock of a nearby nuclear blast. The facility has its own power plant, 6 diesel generators, 6 million gallons of water stored in underground granite pools, a fire station, a medical center, a chapel, and a commissary. It is sealed by 25-ton blast doors and designed to withstand a nuclear explosion of multiple megatons from as close as a mile and a half away. On June 3, 1980, President Carter's National Security Advisor Zbigniew Brzezinski was woken at 3 a.m. with a report that NORAD had detected 200 inbound Soviet missiles. He was seconds away from ordering a full alert before a second call came. It was a computer error. A faulty 46-cent chip had triggered the alarm. The world didn't end. The chip was replaced. NORAD's primary operations shifted to nearby Peterson Space Force Base in 2006, but Cheyenne Mountain remains fully operational as an alternate command center staffed around the clock. It's also appeared in war games, Independence Day, and the TV series Stargate SG-1, which means millions of people know what the entrance looks like without knowing it's real. 21. Mount Weather, Blue Ridge Mountains, Virginia. About 46 miles from Washington, D.C., in the Blue Ridge Mountains, sits a facility known officially as the Mount Weather Emergency Operations Center. It's operated by FEMA, which should tell you something. FEMA doesn't run luxury resorts. Mount Weather was developed as a classified continuity of government facility during the Cold War and has been described as a city within a mountain. It contains dormitories, a hospital, meeting rooms, a power plant, water supplies, food storage, and communication systems capable of transmitting secure messages to military and government sites nationwide. It reportedly houses files on millions of Americans and contains a studio for post-nuclear presidential broadcasts. It also reportedly has an on-site crematorium. Congressional leaders were taken to Mount Weather following the September 11, 2001 attacks. The facility remains operational today. The entrance is surrounded by tall razor wire fencing with signs reading, U.S. property, no trespassing. They mean it. 20. Raven Rock Mountain Complex, Site R, Pennsylvania-Maryland border. Site R, formerly known as the Raven Rock Mountain Complex, sits along the Pennsylvania-Maryland border near Waynesboro, Pennsylvania. Built in the early 1950s, it serves as the underground Pentagon, an alternate headquarters for the Department of Defense. The facility is carved into Raven Rock Mountain and shielded by natural granite and reinforced concrete. 2 massive steel doors, each 3.5 feet thick and weighing 30 tons, guard the entrance. Inside are 5 separate buildings with up to 15 floors each, housing communication centers, command posts, a cafeteria, a barbershop, a medical center, and its own water and power supply. It is one of the most continuously operational secret facilities in the United States, and it played an active role during the Cuban Missile Crisis and the events of September 11, 2001. Much of what goes on there remains classified. 19. The Portland Underground, Shanghai Tunnels, Oregon. Portland, Oregon has a legend, and depending on who you ask, it's either a dark chapter of documented history or an urban myth that got wildly out of hand. The Shanghai Tunnels run beneath Old Town and the Chinatown district, connecting hotel basements, saloon cellars, and the waterfront. Beginning in the 1850s, these tunnels moved goods between the port and businesses without blocking street traffic. That part is documented. What became legend is the practice of Shanghaiing. Men who drank at certain establishments above the tunnels would allegedly fall through trapdoors and wake up on ships headed to Asia, pressed into involuntary service as sailors. Portland was a major Pacific port at a time when ships regularly needed crews. Historians disagree on how widespread the practice actually was, but trapdoors and underground holding cells exist. The tunnels offer guided tours, though the guides tend to lean into the folklore more than the footnotes. 18. The Las Vegas Flood Tunnels, Nevada. Beneath the Las Vegas Strip runs a network of concrete drainage tunnels built to manage flash flooding in the Mojave Desert. There are approximately 200 miles of these tunnels. They were built for utility, not habitation. But for years, hundreds of people lived in them. Social workers, journalists, and city officials documented a substantial underground community that developed in the tunnels during and after the 2008 financial crisis. Residents built furniture from discarded materials, rigged electricity, kept pets, and organized their spaces as fully as the conditions allowed. Matthew O'Brien, a journalist who spent years documenting the community, wrote about meeting long-term residents who had lived underground for years, some of whom had jobs and stored belongings in the tunnels between shifts on the strip above. The tunnels remain, as does the complexity of the human story they contain. 17. Meramec Caverns, Stanton, Missouri. Meramec Caverns in Stanton, Missouri sits about 60 miles southwest of St. Louis and has been a tourist attraction since 1933, when Lester Dill discovered its commercial potential and started charging admission. Long before that, the caves had a history. During the Civil War, Union soldiers used Meramec Caverns as a munitions storage facility. The cave maintained a constant temperature of 60 degrees Fahrenheit year-round, which made it ideal for storing powder. Local legend, heavily promoted by Dill himself, held that Jesse James used the caves as a hideout during his outlaw years. The James family homestead is nearby, and there is some historical basis for the connection, though Dill was never shy about embellishment. At its peak, Meramec Caverns was so heavily advertised that Dill paid farmers to put barn signs along Route 66. Today, the cave system spans 5 levels and extends roughly 4.6 miles into the Missouri Bluffs. Stalactites, flowstones, and the stage curtain formation, a massive 70-foot calcite drape that resembles theater curtains, are the main visual attractions. Tours run daily. The Jesse James legend is still part of the pitch. 16. Mammoth Cave, Kentucky. Mammoth Cave National Park in central Kentucky protects the longest known cave system in the world. Over 420 miles of mapped passages have been documented, with hundreds of additional miles believed to remain unexplored. Native Americans used the caves for at least 4,000 years. European settlers found the system in the late 1700s and quickly put it to use. During the War of 1812, the caves were mined for saltpeter, a key ingredient in gunpowder, using enslaved labor. The remnants of the mining operation are still visible on certain tours. In the 1840s, a physician named John Croghan brought terminally ill tuberculosis patients into Mammoth Cave, believing the stable air and constant temperature might cure them. It didn't. Several patients died underground, and their stone huts remain visible. Croghan died of tuberculosis himself in 1849. The cave became a federally protected national park in 1941 and currently hosts nearly 2 million visitors per year. 15. Luray Caverns, Luray, Virginia. Luray Caverns in Virginia's Shenandoah Valley is one of the most visited cave systems on the East Coast, and its most unusual feature isn't the stalactites or the underground lake. It's an organ. The Great Stalacpipe Organ was built by mathematician and electronics specialist Leland Sprinkle beginning in 1954 and took 3 years to complete. It works by sending rubber mallets to strike stalactites, naturally occurring cave formations that have been selected and tuned across 3.5 acres of cavern. The stalactites are of varying sizes and thicknesses, producing different tones when struck. The instrument is recognized by the Guinness World Records as the world's largest musical instrument. It can be played manually or by computer, and visitors hear it during regular tours. Luray itself was discovered in 1878 by a local tinsmith named Andrew Campbell, who lowered himself into a sinkhole on a hunch. The caverns below were among the largest and most elaborately formed on the East Coast. They've been open to the public ever since. 14. Louisville Mega Cavern, Kentucky. Louisville, Kentucky sits on top of a limestone formation that was mined for over a century. The Louisville Mega Cavern is the result. A 100-acre underground space with 17 miles of mapped passages running directly beneath the Louisville Zoo. The limestone was quarried from the 1930s through the 1970s. After mining ended, the cavern became storage, First, for government documents during the Cold War, it was designated a civil defense shelter, then for private businesses. Today, it operates as one of the most unusual attractions in the country. The mega cavern offers tram tours, a zip line course underground, an underground ropes course, a mountain bike park, and one of the most elaborate Christmas light displays in the United States, all conducted inside what used to be a limestone mine. The cave maintains a constant 58 degrees Fahrenheit. The ceiling clearance in some areas is 60 feet. Tours run year-round. 13. Grand Canyon Caverns, Arizona. About 25 miles west of the town of Seligman along historic Route 66, a staircase descends 210 feet underground into a cavern system called Grand Canyon Caverns. The cave is entirely dry, no formations, no dripping water, because Arizona's desert climate allows no moisture to reach it. That unusual environment makes it ideal for preservation. During the Cold War, the caverns were stocked with supplies to shelter 2,000 people for 2 weeks in the event of nuclear attack. The dehydrated provisions are still there, unchanged in their original packaging. The guided tours walk past those supplies as part of the presentation. The Cavern Suite, a single underground hotel room situated 210 feet below the surface, has been available for overnight stays since 2012. It is reached by elevator, has no cell service, no Wi-Fi, and no natural light. It sleeps too. According to the property's description, the room is the most remote hotel room in the United States. Nobody disputes that. 12. Beckham Creek Cave Lodge, Parthenon, Arkansas. In the Ozark Mountains of northwestern Arkansas, a cave was converted into a private residence in the 1980s. The Beckham Creek Cave Lodge is accessible only by a private road and is carved into the base of a limestone bluff. The cave portion of the structure includes a great room, a full kitchen, and multiple bedroom suites. The constant cave temperature, around 58 degrees, means no air conditioning is required in summer and minimal heating in winter. A waterfall runs through part of the property. The cave was initially developed by a private owner as a personal retreat and survival shelter, complete with its own generator, water supply, and enough storage to sustain occupants for extended periods. The property has been available as a vacation rental for years. Guests have access to the cave rooms as well as the surrounding bluff. There is no cell service on the property. There are also, reportedly, bats. 11. The Catacombs of Paris, American Edition, underground Cincinnati, Ohio. Cincinnati, Ohio built a network of underground lagering tunnels beginning in the 1850s, when the city's German immigrant community established a robust brewing industry. The tunnels run beneath Over the Rhine, Cincinnati's historic German neighborhood, and were dug into the city's hillside to maintain the cool, stable temperatures required for lagering beer before refrigeration existed. At their most extensive, the tunnels ran for miles beneath the neighborhood, connecting multiple breweries. Prohibition effectively ended the brewing industry above ground, and the tunnels went unused for decades. American Legacy Tours began offering guided tours of the surviving sections in recent years. The tunnels are dark, narrow in places, and considerably more atmospheric than most people expect from a beer storage facility. Several sections have been explored and mapped, and a portion has been preserved for public access. 10. The City Hall Station, New York City. New York City's City Hall Station is one of the most beautiful rooms in the entire subway system, and it has been closed to regular passengers since 1945. The station was designed by architects George Louis Hines and Christopher Grant Lafarge, and opened on October 27, 1904, as part of the original IRT subway line. The design is extraordinary. Vaulted Guastavino tile ceilings, elegant brass chandeliers, skylights that let in natural light from City Hall Park above, and graceful curved platforms built to accommodate the station's tight loop design. The station closed to regular service because the platforms couldn't be lengthened to accommodate modern train car sizes, and ridership at the stop had declined. Today, the 6 train still loops through City Hall Station at the end of the line. Passengers who stay on board as the train turns around can see the station through the windows. The New York Transit Museum occasionally offers limited public tours of the station. The tours typically sell out months in advance. Transit workers and city historians have described it as one of the great forgotten architectural spaces in the country. 9. The Malfunction Junction. Underground, Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta has an underground district that, unlike most entries on this list, actually has a name: Underground Atlanta. It sits beneath the viaducts that were built over the original street grid in the early 20th century when the city elevated its roads to reduce railroad crossing conflicts. The original street level, with its iron storefronts, brick facades, and old saloon facades, became the basement layer of the city. For decades, businesses operated in the underground spaces. Underground Atlanta was developed as a commercial entertainment district in 1969 and experienced a complicated cycle of openings, closings, and revivals over the following decades. At its best, it was a genuinely unusual retail and nightlife destination running through 6 city blocks of enclosed underground space. At its worst, it was nearly empty. The city of Atlanta has been redeveloping the site in recent years, attempting to reinvent it as a mixed-use destination. The original underground streetscape, with its cast iron columns and brick arches from the 1870s, remains beneath the viaducts regardless of what happens commercially above. 8. Vivos xPoint, Edgemont, South Dakota. On the high plains of South Dakota, near the town of Edgemont, a Cold War-era bunker complex originally built as a U.S. Army ammunition depot in World War II now serves a very different purpose. The igloo area, named for its distinctive igloo-shaped concrete bunkers, spreads across 18,000 acres. In 2015, the Vivos group acquired 575 of those bunkers on a long-term lease. Each is a reinforced concrete structure buried 20 to 30 feet underground. Vivos markets them individually for long-term personal use as survival shelters. Lessees have installed full kitchens, bathrooms, sleeping quarters, and storage. The facility includes communal areas, a medical center, and a school. It has been described as the largest underground survival shelter community in the world. Whether you find this comforting or deeply unsettling probably depends on your general outlook on civilization. 7. Moaning Cavern, Vallecito, California. Moaning Cavern in Calaveras County, California, in the Sierra Nevada foothills, is a single large cavern rather than an extensive cave system. The main chamber descends 165 feet and is large enough to fit the Statue of Liberty inside it. The cave gets its name from the sound the wind once made as it moved through a natural opening in the roof. Before the opening was enlarged for commercial access, the air movement created a low moaning sound audible from the surface. Gold Rush-era miners discovered human bones at the bottom of the cave dating back approximately 13,000 years, making it one of the earliest documented sites of human remains in California. Archaeologists later determined that the bones belonged to Native Americans who had fallen into the cave through the original opening. The cavern is open for tours, which include a 235-step spiral staircase descending into the main chamber. For visitors who find stairs insufficiently exciting, the park also offers a rappelling option directly down the cavern wall. 6. The Tunnel of the Tong, Virginia City, Nevada. Virginia City, Nevada sits atop one of the most extensive mining tunnel networks in the American West. The Comstock lode, discovered in 1859, triggered a silver and gold rush that made Virginia City one of the most important cities in the western United States almost overnight. At its peak in the 1870s, Virginia City had a population of around 25,000 people, and a mining infrastructure that extended 14,000 feet horizontally and reached depths of 3,200 feet. Among the deepest mines of the 19th century, the tunnels required innovative engineering. Square-set timbering, a technique developed in the Comstock mines, became the standard for underground construction worldwide. The mines produced over $400 million worth of silver and gold during their peak years, a figure that funded the U.S. Treasury during the Civil War. The Chaleur Mine and Ponderosa Mine offer underground tours today, giving visitors access to the original timber-framed shafts and drift tunnels that defined 19th century hard rock mining. 5. Winchester Mystery House Basement, San Jose, California. The Winchester Mystery House is famous for its staircases that lead to ceilings, doors that open to walls, and windows built into interior floors. Less discussed is the basement, and the network of tunnels and sub-basements that Sarah Winchester, the eccentric heiress to the Winchester rifle fortune, constructed beneath the property beginning in 1884. Winchester built continuously for 38 years, employing workers around the clock until her death in 1922. The basement contains its own staircases leading further below, underground passageways, and rooms that have no apparent functional purpose. Some sections have not been fully explored or mapped. The estate covers approximately 24,000 square feet above ground, and the full extent of what sits beneath it has never been completely documented. The house is open for tours, and certain underground sections are included in specific tour packages. It is exactly as strange as it sounds. 4. The Bisbee Mine Tours, Bisbee, Arizona. Bisbee, Arizona, tucked into the Mule Mountains near the Mexican border, was once one of the most productive copper mining towns in the American West. At its peak, the Copper Queen Mine and surrounding operations employed thousands of workers and produced billions of pounds of copper, silver, and gold over nearly a century of continuous mining. The mine operated from 1877 until 1975, when Phelps Dodge Corporation ceased operations. The Bisbee Mining and Historical Museum and the Queen Mine Tour offer the most direct underground access. Visitors board an ore cart and ride into the original shafts, guided by former Bisbee miners. The tunnels are cold, dark, and intact, exactly as they were when the last shift ended. Former miner Bill Connor, who led tours for years, described it this way: "When you get in that cart, you're going where I went to work every day for 20 years. It ain't changed a bit." 3. Forbidden Caverns, Sevierville, Tennessee. Just outside Sevierville, Tennessee, about 15 miles from Gatlinburg, Forbidden Caverns occupy a sandstone and cave onyx formation in the Appalachian foothills. The caves were used by Cherokee people for centuries, and later by Appalachian moonshiners during Prohibition, who found the caves' consistent temperatures and remoteness ideal for their purposes. The name comes from the Cherokee, who considered certain sections of the cave system sacred and forbidden to outsiders. The cave was commercially developed in 1967 and offers guided tours through passages with natural spring pools, flowstone formations, and cave onyx deposits. The moonshining history is documented and discussed on the tours, with remnants of old distilling equipment still present in some sections. 2. The Culberson Caverns / Lechuguilla Cave, New Mexico. Lechuguilla Cave, located within Carlsbad Caverns National Park in New Mexico, is not open to the general public. It is accessible only to permitted scientific researchers and expedition cavers. It is by depth the deepest cave in the United States, descending more than 1,600 feet below the surface. By mapped length, it currently extends over 150 miles of surveyed passages, making it one of the longest caves in the world. The formations inside include crystal formations up to 20 feet long and cave pearls the size of bowling balls, many of which have never been touched by human hands. The cave was thought to be a minor appendage of Carlsbad Caverns until 1986, when cavers cleared a debris-choked passage and found an enormous undiscovered system beyond it. What they found changed the understanding of cave formation significantly. Lechuguilla was carved not by groundwater draining downward, but by sulfuric acid rising from below, a process completely different from most known cave systems. It remains one of the most scientifically significant geological sites in the country. Most Americans have never heard of it. 1. The Titan Missile Museum, Sahuarita, Arizona. About 25 miles south of Tucson, Arizona, a former nuclear missile launch site is open to the public. This is the Titan Missile Museum, the only preserved Titan II ICBM facility in the United States. There were 54 Titan II missile sites across the American Southwest and Midwest, each housing a ballistic missile capable of delivering a nuclear warhead with a yield of 9 megatons, approximately 600 times the power of the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. The sites were operational from 1963 until 1984. All of them were deactivated and destroyed under arms reduction treaties, except this one at the insistence of preservation advocates who wanted to leave one intact for historical documentation. The silo is 146 feet deep. The Launch Control Center is 8 stories underground, connected to the missile by a series of blast-hardened tunnels. During the Cold War, 2-person crews worked 24-hour shifts in the underground facility, authorized to launch the missile upon receiving a valid launch order, without the ability to stop the launch once it began. The Titan II missile in the silo today has had its guidance system removed and its fuel tanks emptied, as required by treaty. Everything else is original. "This is real," one first-time visitor wrote after the tour. "The chair is real, the door is real, and the missile is real, and I cannot figure out how I didn't know this existed." 24 places, all of them real, most still accessible, almost none on a standard tourist brochure. Some were built to survive civilization ending. Some exist because of fire, beer, or geology. A few because someone with too much money and a complicated inner life just kept building. What they share is that they're still there, under the cities, under the mountains, under the parking lots and resort hotels, waiting for anyone who thinks to look down instead of up. If this one was worth your time, hit like and subscribe. We cover the places history buried, forgot, or just never got around to explaining. More soon.